Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another ultimate review. This episode, I'm going to give you the most in-depth review of the boAt Rockerz 330 Pro and the 333 Pro. And if you are wondering what the differences are and ultimately how they sound and whether you should buy it, this is the episode for you. Before we begin, as I always say, if you do enjoy watching my videos, please consider smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And after watching this review, whichever earphone you decide to pick up, kindly use the links of these earphones given in the description below to make your purchase. You have my promise, it's not going to cost you anything extra, but you guys will be helping me run this channel and produce more such entertaining, helpful and high quality content in the future. Now, the boAt Rockerz 330 Pro and the 333 Pro are basically identical Bluetooth earphones. So they are identical in terms of features, except for the fact that the 330 Pro is going to sell on Amazon, while the 333 Pro is going to sell on Flipkart. And the 330 Pro has a non-braided cable, so you have the usual rubber or silicone cable. And the 333 Pro, which is going to be selling on Flipkart, is going to have the braided cable. So whichever floats your boat, whichever one you want to go for, you can choose that. The features are identical. Now, speaking of the features, both of them come with Bluetooth version 5.2, pack 10mm drivers inside. They have a rated battery life of 60 hours on a single charge, and this is at 60% volume, mind you. It also has fast charge, so 10-minute charge will give you 20 hours of playback, again at 60% volume, not at 100%. And it packs 250 mAh batteries inside, so 300 mAh in total, charges via USB-C. It also has magnetic earbuds, which form a loop around your neck when you, obviously it's a neckband style earphone. And the sad thing is, I wish that they would turn on and go into pairing mode as soon as I separated the earbuds from one another, and they would automatically turn off as soon as I put them back together. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So basically, they just stay hung on your neck as soon as you connect the magnetic ear tips together. So that's all. Now for the price they're going to be selling for, which is around $1,500. So I wasn't expecting much from the build quality, but I was rather surprised because they felt really good out of the box. So they've got some heft, they've got some weight to it, and the part which houses the boAt logo has this cold metallic feel. So I'm guessing that is metal. So that gives it the weight and makes it feel a bit more premium. So they don't feel like the usual cheap rubber and plastic combo that you get on most budget earphones. So in terms of build quality, I was mighty impressed. Now for gamers, it's also got you covered because it's got this thing called beast mode, where if you activate that, it basically reduces latency between video and audio even further. And I say even further because it's already got Bluetooth version 5.2, so that really takes care of latency. But if you want the best of the best, you can turn on beast mode and get even further reduced latency when you're gaming, and that is if you're a gamer. Alright, so with that said, these are all the features, and with these hoo-ha's out of the way, I think the main thing that should compel you to buy them or refrain you from buying them is whether they sound good or not. Ultimately, these are earphones, so if they don't sound good, you shouldn't buy them. So you guys know that if you're an existing viewer, I never just say good sound or bad sound. I give you my review in detail and tell you that any sound that you hear is broadly made up of three frequencies: the highs, the mids and the lows. Highs, where the really sharp sounding instruments are, the mids, where the vocals lie, and the lows are the bass, which we all love and crave for. In terms of the highs, both produce very sharp highs, clearly audible. But strangely, even though these have identical features, it was the boAt Rockerz 330 Pro which had the better, more pleasing rendering of the high frequencies compared to the 333 Pro, which I don't know if it's just this unit, but it sounded like it had a lot of sibilance, and the highs sounded a bit harsh at max volume. So the 330 Pro, on the other hand, sounded just a tad bit more soothing and not as sharp, not as artificially sharp rather. So in my opinion, I would say the 330 Pro in terms of highs sounded just a bit more pleasant, more natural compared to the 333 Pro, which while very sharp was a bit too sharp for my taste. Now coming to the vocals or the mid frequencies, Again, both produce pretty audible and bright vocals, but again, it was the 330 Pro which produced vocals which were more separate from the high frequencies and the low frequencies and just sounded a bit more clean compared to the 333 Pro, where I would feel that it would sometimes get mixed up with the low end. Like the low end would kind of eat up into the vocals, which is not pleasant at all. So I'm not saying they are the best sounding highs and mids I've heard in a budget Bluetooth earphone, but if you're choosing between these two, I would go for the 330 Pro when it comes to the highs and the mids. Now talking about the low end or the bass. Now with the bass, you can't go wrong with either of these, and with 10mm drivers and with both signature sound as they call it, it's got ample bass and not muddy bass, but it's got really punchy and thick bass. So if you're a bass head and if you're on a very tight budget, you wouldn't be disappointed. I mean, I wasn't disappointed. Is it the best quality bass I've heard in an earphone? No. But considering the price and the rest of the features, the bass is really ample, thick, punchy, and it's got that rumble, and it really adds that enjoyment when you're watching movies or listening to very bass heavy music. So bass is, I would say, equal on both, but highs and mids are definitely, in my opinion, better on the boAt Rockerz 330 Pro. Now, unless you really need the braided cables and you prefer Flipkart, which you could, then you can go for the 333 Pro. I mean, you wouldn't go wrong. But if you want, I mean, you're paying the same amount of money, and if you could just sacrifice on the braided cable, but in return you're getting, in my opinion, a better quality rendition of the highs and the mids, then go for 330 Pro. You're not going to be disappointed at all. Well, that's about it. My gripes would be that the magnetic ear tips don't turn on or turn off when you separate them and put them back together. I mean, that's a wasted opportunity right there, because that is really useful when you're wearing them and you're talking to someone and you just take them off, and you know, they magnetically form a loop, which is already very convenient. And I wish you could just turn off and save battery, because without that you have to separately turn these off, because if you forget, they will turn off after some time, but it's going to waste battery till then. So that's my review of the boAt Rockerz 330 Pro and the 333 Pro. Choose whichever one you want. You won't be disappointed. Just that keep in mind the point that I said, even though these are identical units, the tuning on the 330 Pro just sounded a bit more pleasing and more natural and more pleasant in my opinion. So since they're at the same cost and just with one minor difference, which is the braided cable, I would suggest you get the 330 Pro if sound is what ultimately matters to you. So, but now it's up to you from whichever platform you want to buy. Just make sure if you do decide to buy, use the links given of these earphones in the description below. And like I said, if you do enjoy watching my videos and if this cleared your doubt and you found this helpful, please smash that like button and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos. And as always, I'll catch you very soon in the next one. Cheers.